Just in the interest of time, we can get started. If you want to start the recording, or is it already going? Oh, it is already going. Okay. So for those of you who do not know me, my name is Susan Cocoran. I co-founded Keller Williams Realty in Hamilton with my husband, Dan. And then in 2017, we started Keller Williams Niagara. This year, we started a property management company called Complete Properties. And, you know, we really feel that there's a lot of opportunities to help agents sell more real estate, which is part of the reason why we've invited Alfonso to join us today. I think that in unusual times, and specifically around the crazy price points in Toronto, you have to be a little bit creative and come up with other ideas to help your buyers get into a property and in turn help realtors sell more properties. So anybody on the call, did you have anything specific that you were looking to get out of today? No? This is purgatory, so feel free to
We might think of questions as you get going.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Irene. Thank you for making me feel like it's not just Alfonso and I.
It's not just you guys. There's a whole bunch of us on. Our crew does tend to be pretty quiet. So
okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
And if anybody doesn't want to speak up, but you want to put your questions in the chat window, we'll monitor.
Excellent. That's awesome. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why buyers are hard to finance. All of the stuff you probably already know. We're just going to talk a little bit about some of the creative ways we've seen other realtors take those hard to finance buyers and put them into of their own. So we're going to talk about investing. We're going to talk about joint venture, new construction. Alfonso is here to share rent to own, which I personally think is the best kept secret right now, especially for realtors on getting people into a property. And then interesting ways to engage buyers and get them out into the game, on the playing fields, and onto the property ladder. Because as you know, sometimes, I mean, everybody buys their first house not thinking it's their forever house. Sometimes you just got to get in, because then the market and the appreciation will help you get to the next rung of the property ladder. So the reason that buyers are hard to finance is because they may not have enough of a down payment. In Toronto, where the prices are so big, right? Even 5 to 10% down might not be enough, and then the mortgage payments could be crushing based on a $900 million mortgage. So down payment might be an issue for them. Low credit score might be an issue for them. One of the things that we talked about was people who have a lot of credit cards, and even though they're zero balance, the bank looks at them as potential credit, so that they still don't weigh you the same way. There could be some bad debt in the past. One of the things that certainly Alfonso's going to weigh in on is, as he's talking about rent to own, is that debt to income ratio, where perhaps people don't have enough claimed income. So if they're servers, you know, they could be a hairdresser, anybody who works on tips. You know, they may have money, they're not showing it on their income tax, so they're just not seen with the same amount of pull as, say, somebody who has a regular paycheck. So the debt to income ratio is off. Self-employment, I know we personally go through this every time we go to get a mortgage. It's like I can hear some music going as they ask us for a million things to be self-employed, and even then having a corporation certainly helps. Self-employed are considered more risky. And we touched on this on the debt to income ratio side, is people who have undeclared income. So one of the options that we're seeing a lot of, and this probably makes a lot of sense in Toronto in particular, is people who want to move away and get into their first house. Maybe a single detached house is really just not an option for them. So the option for them is to position them and pull them into the investment conversation. So if you buy a duplex or a triplex, for example, moving into one unit, renting out the others, you're going to be a lot more favorable to a bank, especially because you have to give them a copy of the lease. So the more income that you can prove in the house will also help you get qualified for. And then once the property comes up in equity, then what you can do is you just keep the property as an investment property, refinance it, and then move into a detached home. I'm not sure if people are finding resistance to that, but we're seeing that certainly a lot of people who are looking at the current price of rents, it does make a lot of financial sense for them to be able to live and rent all at the same time. Any questions about that? All right, joint venture. We're also seeing a lot of this. People buying houses together. So technically, both may be on the maybe on title. Maybe only one person is on the mortgage. Could be the joint venture person and not the person living there is on title. But by the partner overpaying towards the mortgage on the person who's living there or paying rent like they're a tenant back to there to cover properties. For people that are, for young people in particular, and maybe their parents don't necessarily want to give them the whole down payment, it's an interesting it's an interesting family arrangement where maybe siblings are buying together. They're pooling their money to buy a house, renting, and then they're having a joint property. It could be parents and kids. But we're seeing a lot more of that again, just because as prices go up, it's very hard to get a big down payment and then cover all the costs if you're trying to do it by yourself. So if you think about it, say you had parents and then you had, a young married couple, now you have basically potentially 4 incomes to support that property. It's going to look a lot better to a bank. New construction. So new construction is super interesting and it may be a little bit different in Toronto. You're probably looking at outside of Toronto for new construction options, unless you're looking at a condo. The option is almost like buying time. So you're looking for maybe new home build that has a low down payment, not tying up a ton of cash. For you as agents, because you want to make your money, you want to work with cooperating builders so that you get your money out of it. For anybody who has been in construction and even now dates are delayed. But if you buy a house, let's just say you buy a new build, even in Hamilton, say for $500,000, and it takes them 1.5 years to build it. Just say with the current conditions and the house is going up 5% a year, the house is already worth more money. Either sign it, you could sell it, you could rent it, and now they're on the property ladder, and they may not even ever have to live there, quite frankly, which I think is kind of interesting. They may decide that they're going to close on it, mortgage it out for the current appraised value, not what they purchased it for, and they can stay where they are. Again, the goal is to help buyers get into the game, which includes, maybe not even living in the property, but using it as a stepping stone into the property that they want. Now, as I mentioned, I think rent to own is fantastic. I think it's fantastic for realtors, and because they still get to help their buyers and probably help buyers that were never going to achieve home ownership get into a place. So because I'm controlling the slides, Alfonso, you'll have to let me know when you want me to move things along for you.
No problem. And you might have to move them along with it too. So absolutely. And, Susan and I were talking and want to make sure that I thank you guys for having me on. And I know at this point, through all this, it's probably not the first Zoom meeting you guys have been on. Everybody's kind of adapting and kind of getting screen face. So I do appreciate the time for you guys to be on here and obviously the opportunity that Susan provided to meet everybody. So a little bit about myself. My name is Alfonso Salemi. It's an Italian name. I was born and raised in Hamilton. So I'm the co-founder of JAAG Properties, as well as the Right Club, which is a real estate investing network that we're trying to grow across Canada. I sit on the board of directors of CareOp, and that stands for the Canadian Association of Rent-to-Own Professionals. I have a real passion for rent-to-own, so that is the board. It's, you know, a nonprofit board that we're really trying to increase the awareness and the validity of rent-to-own in the industry. Sales and marketing background, an entrepreneur to the core, and like I said, love helping people understand rent to own, because you know, sometimes the perception of rent to own out there, what people have heard, again, being born and raised in Hamilton, I don't know when, but you know, there was people that were doing that. So that's just a little bit about me and what I do. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about rent to own. But first, this is exactly the question that I want to ask. So I know, you know, we try to get some interaction here. So first of all, everybody throw up a one in the chat box. I want to make sure everybody's participating here. Just throw up a simple one up into the chat box to know that you guys have identified it and you guys know where it is. And I want you guys, just any word out there. I haven't met you guys. You guys don't have to, you know, feel bad for saying this. I've done this in person and people are scared to say negative things. So this is great. We're, you know, on the internet together. So what are the things that come up, or what are the things you think of when you hear of rent to own? So, you know, a couple of words, you know, some people say that, you know, it's a big down payment. Some people think of like rent to own, like TVs and appliances. There you go. High interest, you know, rent to own furniture.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I jump in? When I hear rent to own, David Young just said that. Sounds like a scam, sounds sleazy, underhanded. It's too good to be true. It'll never work. There must be an ulterior motive, and I'm staying away.
Boom, mic drop. Thank you very much. So yeah, you guys are right. So thanks for joining, and now we're done for the afternoon. No, I'm just kidding. So exactly, and that's why we're doing these presentations, and why I appreciate people like Susan and the people here on the call that are joining us that want to take the time and actually learn about it. And that can be your perception after our presentation. You still might think that, but I'm here to kind of give you a perspective of why it's not all those things that you guys have listed up, right? So yeah, the scam and all those types of things. So yeah, so really this is who we're looking for, and the people that we're trying to help, the co-people that you guys are looking for, that we're looking for, the same people that Susan just mentioned with the different ways of new construction and co-venturing and helping people become homeowners, right? And in turn, right, selling more real estate and helping people get into their house. So the types of people that we're looking for, we can jump on the next one, on the next slide. In terms of the people that we're looking for, this is our tenant buyer profile. Right? So these people are in situations that are not ideal for banks and for lenders. They've had credit issues, they have a low down payment, and maybe their income issues, like Susan mentioned, right? Like some are self-employed. Again, being from Hamilton, being Italian, I promise you, every single person that's laid a concrete driveway, right? They don't always invoice, right? I don't know, maybe a little bit of a cash deal or something like that. But at the end of the day, like it's our true income, what we actually make, what we claim, and what we need to claim, right, to qualify for a mortgage in the house that we want to live. So that's really what we try to do. So on that third point there, that income issues, is try to educate people. We can tell people, hey, go get a better job and make more money. They have to do it, right? But when they do have a good income, or they are making a side hustle, and that's amazing, because those are the people that we want to work with, that have that inspiration to do that. It's how to best benefit that and still take advantages of owning a corporation or not, or, you know, claiming some of the income or not. So we help them and work that through, right? Other things are like, you know, not claiming the true income or not filing the taxes, international income. Low down payment, that second one there is pretty self-explanatory. Is, you know, you just don't have the enough, right? Like I was watching a global news episode. I don't know if I was telling you, Susan, the other day, and they were talking about the average purchase price in Toronto, where you guys are, I believe, is, you know, well over like 800,000, right? That's like the average purchase price. And they're saying 20%. And there was news today as well too, that the 5% is going away for that. But, you know, not having enough down payment, it makes more sense that the banks, lenders want to see more skin in the game when clients are buying it. So those people, it's hard to save if you're paying rent, having groceries, have other debts that you're trying to, you know, keep up with. It's tough to manage that and save up that money. And then the third one, which I'm happy to say that we have like a robust program, that we have an in-house finance team that works with credit issues, understanding credit. We're going to get into a little bit about that. About our credit team and how credit works and how it can be improved, and the system and the technology that we use is called Score Up, and it's pretty simple. It's called Get Your Credit Score Up, and it actually gives like simulations to our clients in the program saying, okay, you have $1,000 savings this month or over 2 months. Where do I put it? Is it on the car loan? Is it on my line of credit? Is it towards the mortgage? And actually simulates different things on your credit score so that we can get it prepared and ready over that 3-year period. Obviously that takes time, it takes patience, and that's why our programs are typically 3 years. And the last, right at the bottom of the screen there, that's bolded and highlighted, is that motivated homeowners. These are the types of people that we want to work with, right? Things happen in houses. You have to change furnace filters. You have to maintain things in the property. And somebody that just has that renter's mentality that says, no, it's broken, I'm just going to call my landlord, they have to come fix it. That's fine. That they can be in a rental. We have a portfolio of rental properties too. But for the rent-to-own program, these are clients that want to own their house, take pride in their ownership, right? Build that deck, build that garage, finish that basement, have somewhere for their kids to play in the basement that is home, right? It's not just a place to live where till the next place or till the other thing. So it's people that want to own their home and really setting roots. So those are a little bit about the profile. So I'm not sure if anybody, most I'm assuming are realtors here on the call, have people in that hemisphere, in those contacts that you want to help. And that's the best part about the whole Keller Williams family that I've met. You guys want to help these people, but it's almost sometimes you can't go too far without actually transacting and doing a deal. How many hours are you willing to invest? And you want to help, but at a certain point you have to say, well, the client needs to do certain things, right? So that we can go and buy. If a client says, hey, I can't buy in 2 years, you're going to keep in touch and let them know, but you guys are busy transacting and doing your business. This is our job to help these clients, coach them through almost like a personal training into home ownership. So that's just a little bit about the tenant buyer profile. And the next slide is the action plan in our finance team. So really, like I said, we've really got a robust system that we've improved. This has been 7 years now in the making, and we've enacted this in the last 6 to 8 months with all of our clients, that we're following up with every single one of our clients 3 times per year, working on building and repairing their credit so that they know what they're doing, the simulations, what that means. It's not just giving them the fish. We're actually teaching them the fish. The effort has to be put in by them because they're going to own their home, and we don't want them to be back into a rent-to-own program, 2, 3, 4 years later after they buy their house. We want them to give these tools for life so that they understand. And as most realtors know, they're going to buy 4, 5, 6 houses over a lifetime, right? So we want to get that a good foundation of their credit building, repair. Our finance team is going to educate them.
I just want to add here, Alfonso, just because I think, from a Keller Williams perspective, is that most of us appreciate the power of coaching, and that what you're doing is you actually are creating a 3-year coaching program for them to get them to a finish line and an end result. So it's not just one thing, like you really are coaching them into home ownership over a longer period of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always like to think of it as like a personal training for home ownership. Like you can go to the gym and work out, right? And you can get some results. You can get a personal trainer and you get better results. You can do all these things, repair your credit, work on budgets and plannings and Google things and all that kind of stuff. But if you have a team or a personal trainer that you can work with, that's going to get those results quicker and more advanced, right? So we're talking about their budgeting, the tools to track their income, their expenses every month. For self-employed and business owners, we already touched on that, right? How to properly claim their income so they get the maximum benefit by not paying too much taxes, right? That's always like the trade-off, right? Of how much to show, how much to tax to pay, but it's having that full balance that what that target is, that they know what they're going to buy the property for at the end of the term. So they have those formulations, right? The financial education and guidance. Our head of our finance team is a certified financial planner and a mortgage broker, and has 3 people on her team that are working with her to coach with these clients. So every single one of our programs are tailored. And at the end of the day, we want the clients to feel more confident about talking about money. It's a taboo subject, right? We always talk about like the weather and like politics, but like, no one talks about like, well, how much savings? Well, how much do I need to show? Is that a dividend, or should I take it as income? Like it's like a taboo. It's tacky to talk about that, but really it's taking that into your own control. And if we were taught that in school, or if we were taught that growing up, there wouldn't be a problem. It's not a housing problem. I think it's like a financial education problem that we have as people with savings and all that. So again, yeah, I can't talk about it enough of that. We take conservative approaches so that we know that in that 3-year period, we have a pretty good, like a 95% chance that, hey, this is what it's going to look like. And then those other things we can account for. So That's in-house. We brought that. We used to work with mortgage brokers outside of our team. But yeah, so that I want to show this question and I want to get a little bit of participation. So I'm not sure if anybody knew what these 5 factors were before, right? This is the credit score. Like this is like, well, the tablets, right? Like when Moses comes down from the mountain, like these are what the banks and the lenders use, right? For credit score, is that this is what the rules are. If you have good payment history and you have no bankruptcies, no late payments, no past dues, no wage attachments or collections or judgments, you're going to get the maximum points or very close to it. And it makes up 35%. That's called a track record, right? They want to see your track record on how you pay to your accounts and if you've bankrupt before, right? And then the amounts owed on those accounts, right? So we want to utilize that and the debt to service ratio or debt to income ratio that Susan was talking about is get that in proportion and looking that way, right? And not having credit limits at a maximum amounts. Those 2 things alone, right, make up 65% of the credit score, right? And how long you've opened credit cards, how many you've had this since activity. I remember at a younger age, I went to Montreal. I was 18 years old. I went like on a crazy shopping spree with my Visa card. And I was like, oh my God, I got all this stuff. I come home and my mom's like, how'd you pay for all that? I'm like, Visa. She's like, no, you have to pay for that. I'm like, no, I did. I gave them the Visa and they gave me the stuff. Like it was easy, right? I never like, right. And then again, luckily they gave me like a 0 interest loan. I got to pay off my Visa, right? And I got to learn about credit like at a younger age. I was like, holy crap, I didn't realize that. And then I was like, I'm ripping up this Visa card. It's terrible. But if it's still open and you're not using it, that's a bad thing too. So it's balancing those things, right? The new types of credit, how many times you check your credit, opened accounts, and then the types of credit, right? Whether it's credit cards, retail cards. So if you guys, I highly recommend either if you have your phone handy, like take a screenshot or take a picture, take a screenshot. This really is like the foundation of the rent to own program is that when everybody talks about, oh, I have low credit, bad credit, they don't understand why, right? So we get into understanding why their credit is what it is, creating a plan to say, okay, because you've had a bankruptcy or your history of late payments or past due account, are you willing to accept this mission of paying on time and getting that up? And if you do this, this, and this, we're going to get you up to that point. So that's what we use to show our clients that how it's possible. And at the beginning, we talked about, oh, rent to own is a scam and you're out there, to take people's money or it's high interest, but this is how we get them there. The work comes from the client. We build the plan for the client. The client has to be willing to accept it. It's not for everybody. It's like signing up for a gym membership, never going and saying that gym is a ripoff. I hate that. The machines suck in there. That's why I don't go. Well, if you don't go and actually put in the effort and lift up the weight and do the stuff or follow the action plan and pay the bills on time and be diligent with that, spend an hour a week or 2 hours a week at looking on that, then yeah, it can be a scam because you don't do that, right? So it has to be both. It's effort. So, I'm not preaching out here that there aren't, companies or people out there that are taking advantage of people that don't want to do it. It's just like any other industry, right? The same, I just compared one, a gym, or gyms are a scam because they get you to pay monthly and you never have time to go, or we're giving all the information, all the tools for the clients at their fingertips, almost as like a 411, so that they can contact us, not a 911 because it's too late. I just bought a boat on my Visa. Well, sorry, that's a 911 call. Like it's a credit 411. I'm thinking of doing this. I want to build a basement suite. I need 15 grand to redo a kitchen. How do I go about and get that, right? How do I do that stuff? And that's what our team does and builds for them. So that's what I'm really, when I saw this, when I qualified for my first mortgage, I filled out some applications and I got money from the bank and I didn't know how it happened. And I was like, I thought I was a pretty clever guy. I'm like, I should learn about this because maybe I can get more, right? So that was how my introduction to like the credit score and seeing that. So I want to make sure that, for you and your clients, this is something that, is powerful for them to understand and that we build our rent own program on. So yeah, a little bit about the credit score. So a little bit about our program, how it works and the steps is that the benefits that once we've approved our client and they've meet our minimum criteria and we approve our client, we have a budget. So once we set that budget, you guys are going to go out and start looking for the house with the client. So here's kind of a little bit of an overview of how the quick overview of the program is that they're going to apply for our program. They're going to submit all the paperwork. We're going to get an approval and a budget, and then we're going to let them know the budget and we're going to let you know, the realtor, the budget. And now you're acting as our realtor in the buy and sale of this house. Okay. So your client essentially became our client, but now we've become your client in the purchase and sale. Our name will be on the APS, either JAAG Properties, one of our joint ventures or holding companies. And the client is actually going to go and choose, the street, the direction, the windows, the layout, right? But we choose the budget and they get to choose the home, right? That they want to live in, that it's close to a certain area, or school district or whatever that they want to be in. But we set that budget. You guys are going to help marry the budget and the wants and needs and desires of the clients. That's the realtor's role really in all of this, right? So they get to move in today without having to have the whole down payment or have the perfect credit score or having the income claimed. If you're self-employed and you're doing like 90% cash and not claiming all of it, this gives a 3-year ramp to say, now year 1, year 2, year 3, here's what your income needs to look like in those 3 years to build it up to that point so that you can qualify. But they get to move into the house today, right? As well, we talked a little bit about adding equity to their home. Well, a homeowner, right? I'm sure there are some homeowners here on the call. If you want to, fix or repair your house, that's up to you. You don't have a landlord. You don't have to call somebody. The same thing for these clients, okay? They are responsible for the repairs and maintenance of the property, but they get to add any equity, right? Like garages or, like I said, finished basements, new bathrooms, kitchens, and they get to keep that equity in the house because they know the predetermined purchase price. That's set right at the beginning of the program. So if they do a kitchen that adds X amount of value, you guys probably have a whole list of things of, hey, if you do this, or if you finish your basement, if you do the backyard, or whatever curb appeal you add to the house, that added equity, they get to keep when they buy that property because it's predetermined. Okay. The monthly savings plan, it sounds simple. Well, we just save them the money and give that back as a deposit. But I challenge you guys even just to put $100 aside for the next 10 weeks, right? Even for the next 10 weeks, $100 aside, right? Like that's $1,000, right? But that it's hard to do, to put it aside and be diligent and be disciplined with it. So our program does that. It's a forced savings plan. Again, back to the personal trainer reference, we're the personal trainer that maybe gets you in the bedroom and pulls you out and gets you into the gym, right? That knocks on the door, right? So we don't really do that. We don't actually go into homes, and especially around now in COVID, I'm just kidding. But like, that's the, the analogy of that. We're building that forced savings plan into the program. And again, I talked about the financial education and guidance, the clear action plan, or the roadmap that we call, and it's included. There's no additional service charges or fees for this. It's included into the program. It's part of it. We want the client to be successful and own that house and sell that back to them. That's how we operate our business. That's like, removing the scam of it is they're not successful, or sorry, we're not successful unless they are, right? They're owning that home. They get to choose that house. We don't have an inventory of 3 houses and yet they have to pick one. They're going out and choosing that home. It's their house. We're helping them guide that process, right? We don't want to buy complete junk. That's, the partnership with the realtors that we're working with, right? Is that you're helping them in safe and homes that, are going to be worth more in the future in good areas or up and coming areas. But we want them to own their home and give them that financial education. We wouldn't have a financial planner and a whole team helping these people if it was just a scam. The part of the scam that I want to get back to is it's the effort. Again, it's back to the effort of the client. The tools are there and it's a realistic, it's a program. So, yeah, those are the some benefits for the tenant buyers. And I think what we're going to talk about next is obviously the benefits for you guys, right? For mortgage brokers and realtors, alternative financing options. I'm sure, you guys, again, come from a background of education training. You guys have all known to build up your power teams and the people that you work with on different things. We just want to be a member of that power team and be an alternative financing option. Probably all have your favorite mortgage broker or your second favorite mortgage broker or your third favorite mortgage broker, depending on who you're working with on the client, right? And go through that. We want to just be in that realm, in that world of hey, this is just another option. They got turned down from, conventional financing. We tried B lending. And again, we have mortgage, there's a mortgage broker on our team, but she doesn't act as the mortgage broker. But if they can get a mortgage today, we're going to get them the mortgage today, right? If they can't, we're going to build the rent to own program that's going to be realistic. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a haircut on the purchase price they want to buy, or maybe that, realistic, they want to pay $2,000. I think we said, the champagne taste on a beer budget, right? Like that kind of thing, right? There's got to be a little bit of a dose of reality that we say, okay, this is what's actually going to be, is going to be helpful for you. you know, back again to the personal, like personal training is, you know, you, to be healthier, you can't just eat Big Macs, right? You have to have other things in your diet, right? But again, back to some positive and recurring referrals. Typically people that are in a rent-to-own situation know people and associate with people that probably are in a rent-to-own association. So, or in a situation, I should say. And, you know, again, they can refer them to you and say, hey, you know, X person helped me get into my home or get into a rent-to-own program. So more transactions, again, helping realtors sell more real estate. Again, that's it's been ingrained since we've said it, Susan, and that's ultimately like our goal for helping realtors as well too. And again, helping them become homeowners, getting them on the property ladder. We're that boost. How high they go on the property ladder after buying one property, that's their dream home, or it's just a stepping stone to their next home, to the next home. We just want to get them up or be like the step stool to get onto that home ownership. So yeah, some benefits to you guys. So is everybody still with us? Let's get some more ones up there. I need to drink of water. So everybody put some ones up on the chat box. Everybody still following in?
I'm still here.
Awesome.
Looks like everybody else is still here following along.
Awesome. Okay. It's like sometimes you can't notice in the virtual rooms people sneaking out, and like the real rooms you'd be like kind of like shimming out. So I'm glad you guys have stuck around. So we're gonna go through an actual example of John and Mary from my hometown in Hamilton, Ontario. So if we can get to that next slide, John and Mary have 2 kids, rent a 3-bedroom townhome in Hamilton, and they're paying $2,600 a month and have saved $25,000 for a down payment. Okay, so this is a real situation. Income, $82,000 and $67,000 respectively. Their net incomes, right? 6,700 and 4,200 approximately. Their current credit scores, 559 and 680, right? So as we saw in that previous score, 900 is the max. So here's the quick question. Does anybody know what a good credit score is for their client to get qualified? I love asking this question.
750?
750. Do I hear 8? Do I hear 6? Right. So usually the number is around 680 to 700 is what most lenders go by. Obviously, the higher the better. So that's why you shoot for 750, and if you get a little bit lower, you're okay. But again, their credit score is 559 and 680. That's where their savings come from, 10 and 15. So you would bring it to, again, your favorite mortgage broker. They would bring it to their favorite A lender, and they wouldn't get them approved, or there'd be a 0 approval because of the low credit scores. Okay, the 680 is just on the border, and the 559 brings down the average, so they're not going to get financed. So he's a great mortgage broker. He's your favorite for a reason, or she's your favorite for a reason. So they're going to try with their B lender, and well, they're not going to get qualified because of the down payment. Okay, so average purchase price is $500,000, and that's just 5%. The 25 plus your closing costs probably a little bit low, right? And you'd want to see more. Now, at a certain, I think, is that threshold that it's 6% over 700, and those different breaking points that you need more down payment. So what do these clients do at this point here? You're going to want to help them. You can't, right? But now you can, because now you know us. Now you know JAAG Properties. So the rent-to-own program with John and Mary would look like this. We would approve them for a purchase price of $550,000. All right, the purchase price with the $25,000 initial deposit. Now, I usually touch upon this at the beginning of the presentation, but our minimum deposits for our program is either $10,000 or 3% of the purchase price, the greater of the two. Okay, so depending on your purchase prices, those purchase prices increase, the $10,000 is not going to cut it. It's relatively low, right? Because then it's a big savings that we need to save up for the client. So with their $25,000, we would approve them for $550 with their income and their credit scores, all that stuff that you saw in the previous stage. So now you guys would go out and search for a property, the best property that they like, the requirements that they need, up to $550. That's the budget. So we would find a house and we'd get it accepted conditionally at $525. You guys did a great job, found a house that they love at $525, and we put typically the conditions that we're using are home inspection, financing. Now we can be creative on it, okay, and make it look sharp, but we always need at least one condition in there to kind of get the property under contract so that we can finalize contracts, view the property, and make sure that we're doing our due diligence on the actual physical property as well too. Because at this point, we've done all the due diligence on our client. We're ready to buy a house. We just want to make sure that, because the lender is going to do their due diligence as well too, and appraisals, etc. Okay, so we get the house. The rent-to-own agreement would look like this. Okay, so the market rent, what they were paying already, is $2,600. They would need a monthly deposit that's going to go towards their future savings of $800 a month, and they would purchase the home back from JAAG in 3 years at the 600,000 mark. Okay, predetermined over 3 years. Really, a kind of, I think that's somewhere between 4 and 5% appreciation over the 3 years. Okay, we purchased the home. We officially closed on the property. John and Mary would move in. They qualify to get their own mortgage, and at that point there, so realtors is the part you can throw up some negative comments. We do a private sale back to the client at that point there. We don't need to list it. We don't need to stage it. It's a private sale. Your hope is that we're going to keep in contact with you throughout those 3 years and say, hey, now they've officially bought it. At that point there, you can reach out and say, hey, well, hey, are you guys looking at something else? Looking at that at that point there. I think it was like, it's 6 or 7 homes people buy over their lifetime. So if that's their first one, right now, that's the hope, is that you're building your business around them buying and more throughout the lifetime of that client. Okay, so don't get mad at me for that private sale at the end. We're helping you guys at the front side. So that's what the rent to own program would look like for John and Mary. And you guys are probably asking, can they actually afford it? And this is the breakdown on the next couple slides of why they can.
I just to make mention, Alfonso, is because you agree on the purchase price at the end, is that, say, for example, they go out at the end of the 3 years, you get it appraised at 630. They've also made the lift in the market because you've agreed on the purchase price at the beginning of the deal. So you're saying this is factored in at like 5% appreciation, but if the market actually goes up 8%, then they benefit.
That's right. They're buying the house at 600,000, right? So if it does appraise, like in Hamilton, there's been a couple cases where the clients bought back and they've had $70,000, $80,000 of equity instantly the day they bought the property. We saw the appraisal, right? And we still agreed to the purchase price. For us, we're happy. That's a good thing for that client, right? So now they can do something else with that property, use that for an investment. Again, right? This is now giving them the power, the freedom, their own knowledge of what they can do with that. And right, by the time they get through that program, they're going to understand that. So, so there were a couple of questions, and I think we're going to get to them in the next slide or two of where the 800, and like, that's the question. Can they actually afford it? Where does the 800 go? What about other expenses, right? So the next is the breakdown of where they actually, with their cash flow situation, right? Their debt to income ratio, how that's built up. They're currently, some of their liabilities, they're paying rent $2,600 a month currently. Their utilities are $400 per month. The gas for cars and insurance, right, is about $1,800 for 2 vehicles. The food and living expenses, entertainment, right, 2 kids, things like that. So about roughly their liabilities are $7,800. Their net income that we saw in the previous slides are just shy of 11,000 or 10,850. So they have $3,000 or $3,050 each month. Okay, so that's their cash flow. That's the money that they have. Where is it going? What are we doing? So the next slide kind of breaks it down, and this is how we physically break it down for them in terms of what they're paying, right? So yeah, so on that next slide, the breakdown of that $3,050 each month, right? So that $800, where does it go? That's going to go towards their future down payment. So that $25,000 that they gave at the beginning, plus $800 per month times 36 months is going to be their down payment, right? Down payment, income, credit score. Those 3 things, that's what the lenders want to see. So we're checking that box for their down payment. The $25,800, 100% of that goes to them for their future down payment. The $1,250, to pay off credit card, other debt, to get their ratios lower for their credit score, right? So that could be lines of credit, student debt, whatever debt, right? So that $1,250, again, being diligent every month, paying that off. $500 a month for fun, vacation, life, I don't know, like, probably some beer, I'm not sure, that kind of stuff, right? This discretionary income, you have to live life a little bit as well too. And then $500 a month for an emergency fund, or kind of just put it away and don't look at it, right? That it's there for something like that. So that's really like a realistic look at where people say, well, where does my money go? Well, look at like, maybe what gets into that fund or life. Well, maybe $100 of that is like your Netflix and your Disney and your Crave and Amazon and all those different subscriptions that, add up really quickly but we get to look at a full picture of that to see where those clients are putting that money and say, okay, well, that's going to fall in that column, that's going to go in that column, and you can see that. And again, they have a good picture of that. So that's how we propose that. So basically, typically most of our rent-to-own programs are 3 years, and this is based on a 3-year program. Like I said, for real, we started this one, I think, about a year ago. So over the 3 years, they saved over the $50,000 that they're going to use for their down payment. So that's close to 10%, right? They're buying back at 600, 550,000 is almost 10% of their purchase price. They've paid off $45,000 in debt, okay, that they've paid down. Now, hopefully they haven't gone back up to that, but they've paid that debt that's existing. Okay, they slowly climbed up that mountain of debt. They've increased the credit scores with our credit team, right? That they've done those things. They've seen those simulations. They've put that money down, that extra money they have, they put towards other debt. They've increased the credit scores, and they've saved another $20,000, right? That emergency fund or some of the fund money they didn't spend, right? So that $20,000 can go towards retirement, investing, you know, some other stuff that they can do in their life that can help them out over a 3-year span, and they have a better control of that. So, yeah, that's a little bit of the breakdown of how we actually do it for each client. That's a real life example. And I guess here's some of the questions where we can talk about like the what ifs, right? The worst case scenarios if they can't obtain the mortgage at the end. So that's definitely a valid question. And we've seen that happen plenty of times. But what we typically do is we're going to try to extend the rent-own program. Okay, we're not just going to say, oh, sorry, you're out. Well, we've worked with these clients. If they've paid on time and they've put in the effort and they've done these things, and through kind of really no fault of their own, regulation changes, or say something happened, work got slow or something like that, where it's not just them being negligent, we're going to try to extend and work with the program. We've built a relationship. We're contacting them just multiple times before we get into the rental program, and then at least once a quarter in the rent-to-own program. So we built a relationship with these clients. We want to help them and see them through to the end of it. Okay. If there's issues with the rent-to-own program, or sorry, issues with the home in the program, talked a little bit about that. They are responsible for the repairs, maintenance of the home. It's going to be their house at the end, right? So if they want to improve it, if they want to take care of it, again, it's that sense of home ownership. That's what we're trying to instill. That's what these clients need to have to want to be in this program. So all the repairs, maintenance, you know, windows, walls, toilets, all that kind of stuff, right? If the tenant buyer doesn't follow the action plan, and the good thing is about the multiple touches early on in the program is that we can already see, typically within a year or so, we always have like kind of a report that we have with our joint venture partners and internally, and we kind of see how it's been going in that first year. Because everybody's excited and everybody's wants the raring and going, but if they're not following the action plan and doing the real steps, that's when we have to have like a real conversation with them and saying, guys, this isn't just going to happen, right? The work has to be put in. Our team is putting in the effort. They have to be putting in the effort. And, you know, the consequences of that is really that if they're not willing to put in the effort, they're not going to get the mortgage. We're not going to just continue renting and renting and renting. They're going to be paying high mortgages and high amounts every month because of that extra savings, right? If they don't have a clear exit to doing this, we're not, you know, again, from our standpoint, it is an investment, a 3-year investment as well. Willing to extend at certain points, but again, we have to cut it off at a certain point. It can't be forever. So we need to see them following the action plan. We need to see their effort coming in. So there is the possibility. And then the tenant buyer doesn't pay rent. And quite frankly, like people that like on the call here that are homeowners and own your house, if you don't pay your mortgage, what happens the first month? You get a letter or phone call. Hey, what's going on? If you don't answer, you don't get back, and you don't pay the second month, you get like another call and, you know, a little bit more serious letter. And then by the third one, like that letter is typically on your door and like the locks are changed and like you're on the curb. So again, that's what happens to the homeowner. So in a rental program, if you're training to become a homeowner, we're training to pay on rent. Now, by saying that, we're in communication frequently with our clients. We want them to be in communication with us. Know that, hey, we're taking the automatic payment on the first or the second or the third of the month. You know it's coming out that day. If you know it's not in the account, let us know. We'll work out a plan. We need to talk to you guys, right? But if there's like zero communication and they're gone, we need to take the steps. And fortunately, we've had to do it only twice over 150 or so some odd projects. We've only had to do it twice where we've actually had to get legal eviction, where the clients just did not want to follow the action plan, lost their jobs, and kind of went AWOL at that point there. So we really pride ourselves on the the pre-screening, working with partners, and relying on you guys that it's not just about pushing a deal through. It's about these clients are good people. They are going to follow the program. It's not just to kind of just to do a deal, just to do a deal. Right. And again, I think that's the Keller model as well, is that you guys really want to help people that are deserving, people that want to own their home and be in a better position, not just to kind of do business just because, right? That can only last so long. That's like, I call it like the newspaper on the fire versus we want to put like nice logs that burn long and really and do that. So I'm not sure if there's any other questions, or maybe we can take them at the end. But those are just some other scenarios. If there are other scenarios that you guys thought of, or maybe have gotten questions or have had some information about in the past that want to ask about rent to own, I'm happy to address those.
Anybody with questions?
Yeah, so there was one from, so your company basically purchased the house and buys the rents from you. Yep, that's it, Claudia. Claudia, yeah, you got that. We buy the house, the clients are renting it, and they have a purchase option agreement. That's kind of like a first right of refusal, that they're buying the property at the end when they're qualified. And then David asked, they pay $800 a month times 12 months, 96 times 5, 48. That's like an equation there. So it's basically what we're trying to do is they have 25,000 in this case, 25,000 at the beginning of the program, and then an additional $800 a month. And let me pop up my calculator. $800 times 36 months is another 28,800 plus 25,000. Okay. So that's about $54,000. That's going to be used for their deposit or their down payment when they qualify for the mortgage. Typically, we want to see most of our clients have 10% or more for their down payment. We save them roughly about 10%. If they're self-employed, we'd probably even bump that up to about 11, 12%. So we have that 1 or 2 for closing costs, land transfer legals. We pay the land transfer and legals because we're the buyer today, but the clients have to pay that when they buy after the 3 years as well. So I'm not sure if that follows along your formula. Yeah, so for 3 years, yeah. So basically, they're saving up, and that's credited back to them when they buy the property at the end of the term. That 50 some odd thousand as a down payment. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm glad that makes sense. So I'm not sure you make 75,000. So it's credited back, right? So they've given that to us. It's in the equity of the home, and it's credited back in the equity when they buy it back. And now, again, hopefully it appraises for way more than they bought it for, but at that purchase price, right? Yeah. Cool.
Alfonso, I have a question.
Sure.
How many of these would you do in a regular year?
You know what? Let me pull up
roughly. Just ballpark.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, typically we've been trending the last 3 years. We've done over. We've been averaging anywhere between 4 to 10 a month. Like during this COVID, during April and May, we were still at 4, 5. Those like it was
a month. Wow.
Per month. So yeah, we've we're gonna hit over 200 over this year. I'm not even saying we're trying. We are gonna hit over 200 this year. Like not the whole year. Like I mean, of our total lifespan, right? So we're at like 30, anywhere between. Last year, that's why I'm trying to pull it up. Last year, we averaged, it was 7 per month. So what's that? About 80 some odd properties. Yeah, and again, right, and that's why, because our function is really kind of the central hub, right? We're not the realtor, we're not the financing company, we're the in between of that client, helping that client, right, that isn't able to buy, right? So we have joint venture partners, we have investors, we buy our own properties. We're ready to go. We want to help more people, right? So that's probably a knock. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, because, and I don't want to mention names, but a lot of the rent-to-own providers or other people that claim to do rent-to-own sometimes come to us and we find the investor and buy the property, because that's the other part, right? If you're working with a rent-to-own specialist or rent-to-own person, you're going to want to be sure that they can close. They're not just telling you that they can close, right? That they can close. So fortunately, and touch wood, that every time that we put in an offer, we have found a way to close on that deal and start that project. If we've had to put in some private money at the beginning and then eventually get another conventional mortgage at the start. If we're at that point when we've set that budget and we've made that call to you guys, to our clients saying, hey, go out and shop, we're ready to go. Like I don't want to say signing the offer on the back of the hood, right? Or, back of the
Right.
thing. But at that point there, yeah, we are. If we say, hey, go out and check, we don't want to waste our time. We don't want to waste your time. We want to qualify our client first. Sometimes that's, I don't want to say sometimes, frequently, I get calls from realtors saying, hey, you know what, we put in the offer, now it's the last minute, we're down to the 11th hour, they didn't qualify. We need to still take our time and vet our client. The people that are just going to say, yeah, no problem, we'll take them on, we can do it. Like, sure, but it's not going to be, again, that's that's like a newspaper on the fire. We want to take the time to properly vet our client to see what their income is, get all the proper documents in. We have an easy step process listing all that out in a team that, follows up with our clients to get all that stuff so that we know the purchase price matches what we can work with them and what they're going to be qualified for.
Right. Janice had a good question. What's the percentage of people that actually buy the house in 3 years?
Yeah, so it's over 90%. So over 90%. Like I said, we've had 2 that we've actually had to evict, and then so that was like worst case scenario. We've had a bunch that we've had to extend, but like a couple examples are like there was a divorce in Oshawa. So they were 2 years into a 3-year rent to own program. They were getting divorced, and neither of them on their own could qualify for the property. So what we tried to do was, what we did was actually put in another rent-to-own client. We, at that point there, we were able to return about 60-70% of what the clients had initially given us, those first clients, started another rent-to-own. Unfortunately, they got a divorce too. So that was a divorce house in Oshawa. So at that point there, we sold the house. We're able to return, again, some of the deposit back from the client and then just put that house on the market. So from an investment standpoint, we still were able to sell it. It was a success. The clients weren't successful. They weren't able to buy the house, but they had most of the deposits, the initial and the monthly that they had given us. And they were able to go and, pay in first and last, or, kind of start. Unfortunately, probably some of that money went to divorce attorneys and lawyers in both cases. But yeah, like though it is a higher percentage, and I think it's only going to get higher as we further strengthen our team, brought on a certified financial planner, have a more structured format. Like, 3 years ago, I was driving to the house and saying, hey, make sure you talk to that mortgage broker we connected you with, and then talking to the mortgage broker and saying, hey, did you talk to that person? And now we brought that all in-house, where we have the finance team where it's not 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but I can pick up the phone, know where any client is in their program, know where they are, and have that. So that kind of gives more reassurance for the program overall.
That's great. Thank you.
No problem. Oh, yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the prompt. So I mentioned I sit on the board of directors of the Canadian Association of Rent-Owned Professionals, collectively across Canada. So we actually have a board meeting today at 4:00. So these are rent-to-own companies that are doing it in an ethical way across the country, that are helping people to set it up. So from an investor standpoint, from a client perspective, from a professionals, right? You guys have associations, realtors associations that you guys are a part of. Mortgage brokers do too, right? Dentists, lawyers, doctors, they all do. And it holds you to an ethical standard that, you guys are licensed. I definitely see somewhere in the future, as this becomes more prevalent and more, needed in the market out there, there will be some type of licensing, or I actually want to push for that people that are doing it properly, that are helping and doing it to help people, not to hurt people that are in vulnerable situations. So yeah, really, we want to educate members in order to achieve successful outcomes for rent-to-own professionals, clients, and investors. So we do have associate memberships available. Like the cost is like $100 a year. And it's just to use the branding, to have, more information about rent to own, to secure for your clients to know that you are working with a company that has a higher standard, that is trying to help people, and not doing it just to kind of fly by night, let's say, right? That's kind of doing it in an ethical way, that we are accountable to each other. Once a quarter, we have partners within the association that we actually do blind calls to different realtors and different tenant buyers. Because sometimes when you're listening feedback from your own people, hey, everything is great, it's awesome, and they don't tell you. But when you're calling from the association, they can give you that information. And we're all trying to really improve this industry, because I love right at the beginning, I'm even going to screenshot that all the things that people had put up and they say about rent to own, it's true if you're not doing it properly and you're not doing it in the right way. And I'm sure you guys have never heard that, oh, realtors, right? Oh, those bad realtors, right? You've never heard negative things about that. But it's the same way if you're doing it properly. And I'm pretty sure you guys might know one or two realtors that, aren't really trying to help people that are in it that way. We won't mention names either, but it's across all industries and we want to keep it to a higher standard. So yeah, that's all I'll say about that. And if you want more info, you can definitely check out careop.ca. And there's my contact info. So the first line there, we can schedule a phone call that directly books to my calendar. You can reach out, send an email. And I definitely want to draw you to the website. It's got a 4 to 5 minute cartoon video that is a really good starting point for your clients, for yourselves, just to kind of really go over what I just went over today, kind of in a more clear, succinct way with some cartoons that make it really easy to understand the rent-own process. And yeah, so that your clients can get more educated on this. So yeah, that's just a little bit of way to get in contact with me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Alfonso.
Yeah, thank you.
I think for realtors in particular, it's so crazy important to try and help people to get onto the property ladder and not see, for example, they could do that. They could improve their credit score. They could save money. They could do all those things, just like, having, like you said, a personal trainer or not having a personal trainer. I think, MAPS coaching talks or Bold talks about the gap trap, right? We all know what to do. We just don't do it. And having like the rent to own program as a bit of an accountability partner to those things. And so I think that, if you all think about your first home, or you're thinking about your first home, and you're thinking about all the clients in your database that are thinking about their first home, is, if they were to do this themselves, they'd have to wait 2 or 3 years to try and get up to the point where, and by then, as Alfonso pointed out, the house is now worth $600,000. So now they need more down payment, and it kind of goes on from there, is just helping people get in the game, especially when the interest rates are so low right now. So anyways, thank you very much, Alfonso. He's going to hang with us until the end. I want to talk a little bit about how you can think about your database and who are your perfect customers to position them with strategies, including rent to own, that you could go back to them and give them some ideas to try and pull them onto that property ladder, right? So anybody with a good job or with a good job and work history. So, you know what banks, they like stable, predictable income with jobs you can't get fired from. Some access to a down payment. So could be their money, maybe it's not all of their money, maybe they don't have enough money, but some kind of down payment. That they have a pretty low debt ratio so that they can afford more. As you know, banks, all like other assets, RSPs, stocks, bonds, anything that they can prove that they've been saving, and will agree to pre-qualify. So when we talk about getting them off the sidelines and into the game, we really have to talk a lot about financing first, whether that's pre-approval with a mortgage broker, with a bank, with rent to own. It all starts with the pre-approval process, and that'll save you a ton of time running around showing the money, and then they have to do a mutual lease because they can't afford the darn house after everything that you've gone through. I think for a lot of people, they dream about their first home, and what they dream about and what's romantically in their minds about their first home may not exactly be what's going to happen for them. And I think when you're helping them talk about their expectations is that, their home may not be their forever home, that they're looking for some place that's going to further them in a 2, 3, 5 year, 10-year, 20-year plan. And how tied are they to the goal of owning a home? Because if they're really tied to owning a home, are they prepared to look at other options to be able to get them to the end goal? So again, when we talk about the one thing, for example, it's not point A to point B. It's the ziggy-zaggy line that gets you to point B. And some of the options that we're talking about, joint venture, investing and living in a multi-residential unit where they're basically a tenant in their own home, rent to own, any of those things is really still getting them to the end result, just maybe not in the straight line that they see. My things are out of order, right? So not your forever home. If people have an idea, I think, you know, for realtors, we all know this, right? Like, you're always trying to cast the vision of what the future looks like. Let that positive future pull people through to where they want to go. So, you know, if you talk about a forever home, like, what does that look like? How much money does it cost? Where is it located? All of those things. And so say their perfect house is, you know, High Park. The house is worth $2.6 million. And how do they get there? Well, I mean, to save 10%, I mean, is a huge amount of money. That's a huge amount of money. And then they may still not even qualify because it's such an enormous mortgage payment. So what would they be prepared to do in order to get to their forever home? And sometimes it's making concessions, sacrifices, and doing it a little bit more creatively. And having those really good conversations with people, again, casting the positive future for them. You gotta really know your numbers, and you have to know what your options are. Alfonso talked about your first favorite mortgage broker, your second favorite mortgage broker. You know, there's just a lot of people out there. I know for us personally, being self-employed or having a company where they still consider you self-employed, you know, we were having more luck with our bank where we do all our corporate banking. Some people have more favors if they have relationships at the bank. Some people get better options from a mortgage broker. You know, the challenge with mortgage brokers that we find from time to time is that they're trying to push mortgage someplace they're getting the most amount of money and may not necessarily be the easiest place for the client to get the mortgage. So you really want to make sure that you have options for your financing. And then of course, rent to own is on there in terms of getting people in. And whether it's own or anything else, please, like, protect your time as realtors and get pre-qualified or pre-approved going into taking people out and showing them houses. So here's what we hear, right? How much do you need down? Well, to have enough down to make the numbers work. That's really the short answer to that. So it depends on the purchase price, depends on their income. And I really think people need to have a really realistic number of how much money they need down or what they can afford. And again, being open-minded about the path. If they wanted a $2.6 million house and they, you know, to put 25% down is just not a realistic number, could they live in a $1 million house for, you know, the number of years to be able to get the equity and the down payment out of the house? Could they make it work, right? Maybe it's not the first purchase, maybe it's the second purchase. Again, the disappointment that it's not the house that they dreamed of, the crystal, you know, ideas that they had. And of course, people can always make it that if they have the creativity. You can make it your dream house, or you can at least be on the path to saving enough money for your dream house. First-time home buyers, people that haven't stepped on the property ladder yet. I think we've all seen those. They're so nervous about making a wrong decision, about not buying the right property, about getting in over their heads. Like, there's just so many things that can go on. And really, you know, as trusted advisors, trusted real estate advisors, it is your job to educate them. And, you know, there are people who won't even work with first-time home buyers just because they can be a little bit more demanding. Sometimes their hands held longer. Like, there's those things. I mean, it's just really about you looking within your database, figuring out how many houses you want to sell and who your first time home buyers are that you want to be able to bring in and help them find a house. Okay, and of course, fear, being cash poor, and welcome to home ownership, honestly. So you as realtors, where do you start? All right, first thing to start is by marketing first-time home buyer type properties to your database. Share with them the ideas of multi-unit, live in one, rent out the others. You could do it that maybe they're buying out of town, because we told you how cheap Hamilton is, buying out of town, continuing to rent in Toronto, renting out the property in Hamilton, and having them pay down the mortgage on a house that they're never ever going to live in. But these are all really kind of interesting options. I would tell you that here in Hamilton, one of our agents, he owned a home. He bought it really cheap. Like 10 years ago in Hamilton, you could buy a house for $175,000, like a nice house for $175,000. So his house, was worth $6. And what did he do? He sold it, took all his cash and bought 3 houses, right? And he rents because it's cheap, and he rents out everything else. And now he owns 3 houses instead of 1. So there's all these ways that you can position different first-time home buyer options and market them to your database. If you're not using Command's always a really awesome way to do that. Alfonso and I talked about this. In the US, there's this company called the Belt Team, and they do this Kiss Your Landlord Goodbye to first-time home buyers. And you're doing seminars using PowerPoints like this one. And if you want a copy, I'm happy to give it to you. And you can modify it for yourself so that you can share this with your clients. But really, again, capturing people's imaginations about home ownership and what the possibilities are, and really talking through all these wonderful ideas that, again, are not that straight line from A to B. They are really the zigzag. As Alfonso mentioned, I think that how this credit score is put together is a fantastic image to share with people, is educating buyers on really what they need and having a good conversation with them. And if you don't want to be the money person, again, take them to a mortgage broker, have them talk to a bank, have them work with a specialist, a money specialist, so that you can be the hero in finding them in the house and let somebody else be maybe a little bit more the heavy when they're helping them. I think the challenge was sometimes having somebody else having the money conversation with your clients, just like having somebody who does a home inspection and the home inspection is not framed correctly and costs you the deal, is that you just don't want to be in a situation where your mortgage broker accidentally or purposefully costs a deal, or isn't a creative thinker and doesn't help people move in that direction. Is to really help people work with give them hope about home buying, because you're building clients for life. If it's not this year, maybe it's next year, or maybe they end up finding more of a down payment. Just never know how these things go. So again, I cannot stress enough about pre-qualifying or pre-approving to make sure that you as agents are spending your very hard-won time with people who really can pull the trigger when they're ready to buy their first house, or not even their first house. It may not be their first house. They're just hard to finance buyers, right? Is getting them there, and then being able to have options if they can't get pre-approved, or help them talk to a coach who's going to help them get it pre-approved. And I think if you keep showing up with ideas around how to get into a house, how you might be able to help them, like I said, multi-residential units, buying out of town and renting it out and staying tenants where they are, all of these ideas that people are doing to get ahead, because it's just not the same game that they probably thought that it was. Any questions? Any comments, any ideas, anything we can do for you? No? Oops, sorry, that was me. Anything, any questions? Oh, seen lots of ones. Okay, that was great. If there's anything that you would like, my email is susancorcoran@kw.com. Sorry, you can email me. You can find me on Facebook. I'm sure we have lots and lots of people in common on Facebook if you look for me that way. Your market centers have a copy of the presentation. They can send it to you. You know, one of the things that we always love about Keller Williams is R&D, which is rip off and duplicate. So please rip it off and duplicate whatever you'd like so that you can hopefully get some more sales out of some of the things that we talked about today. All right.
And
thank you, Alfonso.
I just want
Sorry,
to
go
add one
ahead.
thing on that rip off and duplicate. If
Yeah.
you guys, if everybody on the call here, I'm going to put my email up. If you guys want to email me, I will customize an application, a rent-to-own JAAG rent-to-own application with whatever branding or marketing that you guys use for yourselves or for the brokerage. If you send me an email with that, I'll send you back a customized application that you can use for your clients, and I can even send you like our templated email that has links and real helpful, like frequently asked questions about rent to
That's
own,
awesome.
all the resources that we have. So I'll put my email up, and if you guys get in touch with me, I'll send that out to you guys individually. So thank you so much for the time and the opportunity as well.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.